Okay, so welcome back, refreshed from the break. And we will continue now the program with the panel discussion, addressing also the important points that we have been discussing so far. And I would then invite for the panel discussion the previous speakers, so Juha Salmelin, Sampo Hietanen, and Heikki Ailista. And then also Outi Keskiäijä, who is the head of AI business program at Business Finland. So welcome everyone. If you could also, Sampo, put the camera on, if you can hear us. Okay, great, welcome. Okay, so maybe we could start the discussion with if you could, Outi, for example, address the first point. So we have been talking a lot about then artificial intelligence methods, and then of course, as we know, to be able to do the revolutions there, we need to collect and process and analyze different forms of data. And it's said that even that data will be the new gold in the smart mobility ecosystems. But how do we then secure that the data really is collected and shared when kind of like it is also becoming a business asset of the companies, and then still kind of like the future smart mobility ecosystem and cities would need the data to be shared among different actors? So how do you see that this should be implemented and enabled, and also, so what kind of like business models and agreements would it then need and require?
Okay, yeah, we all know that actually there is enough data, but it's scattered in different silos in wrong format, and there is no trust to kind of like share it. And there has been some activities and initiatives already ongoing in international level. So there's like international data spaces, and where they have created a common reference architecture and connector that allows you to kind of like define that how your data is used and how often and which data and which purpose and so on. So there is kind of like currently ongoing these initiatives, and then recently there has been the Gaia X initiative in Europe level to create this kind of like secure infrastructure for the sharing the data. So the technical structure to share the data and so on. So I think that these are these kind of like steps to promote that type of the data sharing and data use. But it's difficult because it's up to us, and it's kind of like sensitive in many cases, and we will see the small steps there, not big leaps like in some technological cases.
Okay, great, thank you. So then what about, for example, Sampo, is this something that you already see in your development, that kind of like that the data sharing should need some new systems or kind of like regulations still, or how do you see that in your business?
It always needs. I think we were all caught up with the whole data and how it became big, and definitely needs game rules. It's a bit a wild jungle out there where every player wants to make up their own rules. Having said that, I think we overemphasize the value of data in these disruptions. If we look at the actual market value of data, it's in steep decline. There's so much data you can buy out of all kinds of things that trying to capitalize on data is no longer such a big thing. Although all companies kind of think that, I've got data, I have no idea what to do with it, but it must be valuable. What's really valuable in all this is, and I would say maybe it's raw oil of the future, but it's definitely not gold. What's gold for the modern era or the next stage is actually trust. And how do we build trust? Because without trust, there's not much ongoing. And how do we build that I would say is far bigger question than the whole thing, because that solves also the data issues.
Okay, great, thank you. And that's actually probably a quite good bridge then to Juha. So kind of like when for example developing the autonomous vehicle ecosystems, we will kind of like continuously need to collect real-time data from different sensors and so on. So do you see it also that kind of like the need of the sharing of the data and so on would be declining? And then when we are talking about the trust and security, so do you think that, for example, the existing GDPR and will kind of like secure the privacy of the users, and what kind of like methods would we need for that in the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have spent huge time for meeting the GDPR rules even in our test network, which is in the public area. So it's a huge task to continue so that it is in EU level acceptable, and I think it's even more. It's somehow making the development as a border, because a lot of things should be done, but because of those rules, it's very, very difficult. On the other side, of course, the rules are very good and needed to save the privacy things as people own, but I think that as was the Millennium Prize meeting, if somebody listened, that there was Bengt Holmström and Nina Coppola and Svanberg from Volvo, and all they say that in Europe we are behind in the digitalization and in the data. We don't understand that, and those who are in China, they understand and use it. Well, maybe that is not the right way even, but then also in the US they are making a lot of money with the data, and we don't know what to do. And then we are just making those regulations and the rules, but we are not doing the things. And when I'm looking at this smart city area and discussing with cities, they don't know what to do with the data. They don't know how to use it. And then if you think about, as I presented, a lot of things that can be done in the cities, but there's no any business model, there's no any understanding of that. I think that is the big problem, that we don't understand it yet.
Okay, so did you get some good hints from the discussion then from US and China? So what should we do? So was there some kind of things that we could then also implement here?
Well, I think it was quite short presentation, so it was just they didn't get the answer for us. They was also thinking that well in the Nordic countries we have Ericsson and Nokia, so we have 5G, so it should be so that we understand everything in data, because the 5G is really in the future and today. But no, we don't understand the data, and that was still after the meeting a big question mark. What should we do?
Okay, great. Thank you. So no kind of like gold mines revealed there then yet.
Not yet. Or they might be, but we don't understand it.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you. Then going a bit to the future. So for example, EU has kind of like made a strategic decision to kind of like accelerate the development of drones, so the UAVs for the future, and based on EU's estimation, so in for example 2030 there would be over 10,000 drones flying over one city. So then the interesting question here is that how much, for example, do you believe, Heikki, that this would be kind of like possible and true? So how do you see the emerge of these new transportation modes, for example, the drones or something other very groundbreaking? And if they do then emerge, and if kind of like these EU scenarios are reality, so how do they then kind of like change the traffic ecosystem and the development of the cities?
Well, I would still expect that the land-based transport in the cities is by far the dominant, and I would expect that the drones are in some special cases very nice, very good. Maybe some last mile deliveries with drones. I'm not sure what is the, let's say, basic physical, this kind of energy consumption things. If you compare a land vehicle, maybe autonomous land vehicle, and a drone, is the drone 2 times more expensive in energy wise, or what? I would imagine that it is more energy consumption, and that way also more expensive, maybe also a bit more complex because of the rules. Of course, the air is less crowded than land, but I would maybe expect also for the delivery business, which is now growing very much because of the Amazon and Alibaba and also all other companies selling in internet kind of way. That could be kind of maybe mixed or interconnected with the mass type of things, or some others that transports or vehicles which are moving anyhow would also maybe somehow transport the last mile or some part of the delivery things, that there wouldn't be special cars driving around with this size package, big car delivering this size of packet to one place, and in 5 minutes a Volt guy coming with the food, and then the post office bringing something, and then the neighbor coming with his car or her car to the next door. Maybe this could be combined with some kind of mass system optimized with AI. Maybe that could be more my vision than the drones flying. Of course, their drones have their place.
Okay, thank you. And actually, Juha, in your presentation, you had already envisaged the emerge of drones in your system. So how do you see this? So you are already prepared for this, and how do you see that will be in the future, and how would it then change the systems?
Yeah, we have the drone nest in the top of the light pole, and Rumble Tools is a small company who is developing that, and I think that it is coming, but very slowly. There is a lot of technical things, and then political and different rules. But 10,000 drone is not so much in the city if there is 1 million cars.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And it will come. It will come. The technology will evolve, and then of course it's the question that is the drone carrying people or just small boxes, or is it just for sensoring? So of course all of those.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. And then Outi, could you also then reply to the drone question? So how do you see that for example, is it seen from the business ecosystem that there are kind of like big interested towards this kind of like services and technologies, or do you think that these are still considered as being something quite utopistic and very much in the future?
And yes, I think that especially, of course, this last mile problem is still existing, but I think that there will be many other solutions for that as well. Drones are just kind of like one thing, and then of course there's this sensoring type of thing that is probably still continuing, but maybe to have the amount for that purpose is a little bit too much. But I think that there is of course some kind of like need, especially in this last mile delivery type of things. But I hope that there would be another type of issues there. For example, kind of like getting that connected to the mass and have people also delivering and getting some benefits of that they deliver some packages in when they are away on the way.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, and actually then to Sampo, so first about this drone and how do you see their kind of like joining drones into the Mars ecosystem?
Certainly, I think this is a perfect example of whether we're doing tech for the benefit of tech or does anyone want to answer why on earth would we want 10,000 drones in the city? I mean, yes, there will be 100,000 drones if somebody comes up with a reason why. That's the first thing. So provided that there's a nice business logic, so something that people are happy to pay for, and drones serve a purpose, yes. But this is one of those things where I just have to shake my head. I said, really, EU? That solves the smart city? So somebody has 10,000 drones and another one pushes 100,000 drones into the city and then gets a reward for best smart city. What do we do with them is the big question. I would say they will come if there's a logic. There's all kinds of tech things. And the biggest question is, what do we do with those?
Okay, so maybe I could give my view on this, because I think that from this sustainability viewpoint, there will be many benefits. So kind of like freeing the space from the land, then for example, leisure areas and then building. And of course, that way also then reducing the congestions if we would then kind of like put part of the human and good transport to the air. So probably there will be, yeah.
A counter argument, because this is the engineer answer to this. And we talk about last mile solution. We can talk all about this. Look, us transport engineers, we've solved the last mile solutions many times over. It is whether we find something that people will love that actually makes it. We can solve these efficiency issues. We're a bit engineers here in Finland. Look, it makes absolutely no sense that people have cars. There is absolutely no rationale. And if you would ask why on earth would that come, but they did prevail, it's because it's so appealing for the individual. So let's keep that in mind as first.
Yeah, well, thanks. And that was actually a good bridge to my motivation for my next question, because you were talking about how kind of like that we have to convince the people to get rid of the cars and by giving them some more kind of like flexible and better modes for mobility. But then still, I think that the kind of like the justifications were quite rational. So I at least read that people do have really strong emotions for their cars, for their vehicles. So are there any ways of kind of like affecting that? So you already gave this one example of a man kind of like saying that he found this Mars so much kind of like more flexible that he would get rid of his car. But what about the people who kind of like have really strong emotions for the cars, for the vehicles?
Yeah, and they should, but we do, according to studies, we do overestimate the feeling for the car still. The youngsters don't really have that rationale, and that there's enough data to back that up. But there is, it holds by far the biggest value. So let's hop on that. If you're smart, you want to piggyback on the creation, what car has created. I mean, most of that money, that $10 trillion, does not have anything to do with rationale. Let's even assume that the cars would be rational. But if we were rational, we would all buy the cheapest Kias. Come on, that's true. Do we? No, we don't. We buy something else. So let's try to get onto that one. Any of you have cars? Hands up if you have. All right. Is it your dream car?
No.
Oh. Normally, anywhere I go outside of Abu Dhabi, there's not many hands up. In Abu Dhabi, all the hands are up. That's a different place. But okay, so you're utilizing that asset. You don't buy the Kia, you maybe buy even a Toyota Corolla or something like that. Ooh, but it's not really your dream car, is it? Now, if I say you're only utilizing that asset about 4% of the time, with the same money, I have the capability of giving you a luxury car when you really need it, when you take it. If you're using it anyways 5 times, which is the average we go to the summer house, you use it 5 times a year. Why don't take a better one, take a nicer one? Or even more so, when you're saving, when you're doing sustainable choices, you're walking, biking, you're actually making money for me. So it makes sense for me to incentivize you, give you reward points so that the next time you do get the car, if you're okay doing sustainable choices, next time you do take a car, it's going to be a Tesla that you never had access before. So it really is decoupling the price perception from the actual production. Car is the only thing out there today in the field of mobility that has decoupled the price, that has emotional elements from the actual production cost. You don't go and ask for a list of what does these components cost and so on. And that's the trick also in the future.
Yeah, that is true. So true. I gave up my car and it was my dream car, and I'm still missing it a lot, even that I really know that I don't need it. So, but I've stayed strong with that.
But yeah, there are not many people like you, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, so then we could continue with the questions that came from the audience before the event. So this one would be then for Outi. So how do you think that AI may help in innovating and creating regenerative, positive net impact and positive handprint products, so services and business models? So how do we really kind of like now use AI for getting then the sustainability benefits?
I think this is really tricky questions, and this is like somebody would ask that how you would make the new sample in the science fiction novel. So not referring the sample here, so in Kalevala sample. So, but maybe I say some kind of like. Ideas that I have here, especially in the consumer side business. I think that is, I would like to refer to what Sampo said earlier, to understand your customer. I think use AI to understand your customer and what is important to your customer. That is one important thing. And that is used very much. We know that there's some bad kind of like not so high ethics use, like, for example, Cambridge Analytics and so on, that have used that to understand motives of the people and how to manipulate those. I don't basically mean that, but kind of like in the good way, how to understand that what is important to your customer and provide something for that type of things. Then I see, I'm personally as I'm engineer, so I'm kind of like personally interested in very much now we have this how to use the digital twins and reinforcement learning to kind of like optimize, make new solutions, so kind of like understand complex situation better, as we are in many cases we have very complex systems and complex problems, how we could solve those, how we can solve our energy kind of like problems in the most sustainable way and so on. I think in those cases, these kind of like technical use cases are the best ones, and I think these new ways to kind of like simulate and kind of like find best and optimized way that people are not usually very easily finding is a very, very interesting way to do that. But in then kind of like that you need to, there's not just kind of like one golden bullet that would kind of like solve every kind of like problem.
Okay, great. Thank you. So there would be so many good questions still, and we are running out of the time, but maybe then if Heikki and Juha, you could reply for the try to find this golden bullet. So what do you think that would be, so Heikki from the academia viewpoint and Juha, of course, from the company viewpoint. So, and when the motivation for this event also is to kind of like find the ways of how the academia and industry could collaborate and find the good tools, how to make this sustainable mobility reality. So what do you think that would be kind of like the most important collaboration modes and outcomes of the collaboration between the academia and industry, and how could we really in practice be able to implement that? Maybe Heikki, if you could start from the academic viewpoint.
Think that, and maybe I'm standing a bit in between the industry and academia as a VTT person. So I think that this kind of open interaction between industry and researchers with academia, so to to first kind of identify the points where, or bottlenecks, or let's say more like opportunities where some research effort could lead opening the opportunity, and then making a roadmap from, let's say, from simulation or proof of concept, simulation, proof of concept, then pilot, and then to the market and scaling up in the market. Like, well, I think this could be in electrical vehicles or charging, where we have a presentation after the panel, or in the mass kind of things. So, or other aspects than traffic, also heating, district heating, this kind of cross-sectoral energy use, and so on. So simulation, proof of identifying the opportunity, doing research, simulation, proof of concept, piloting, and scaling up. Very traditional.
Great, thank you. And then Juha, what about then the industry viewpoint?
Yeah, in fact, I agree totally what Heikki was saying, and I think we have made very good practices with this Luxstream project, because we have those 26 companies, and there is, as I said, there's every kind of people involved, and we are doing research and the products and the regulations and everything together, and that is the way. Of course, you need to have somebody who is really driving it, and there must be some targets, and then if the target is the same for everybody, then it's very easy to go and they use the Business Finland funding and EU funding and that kind of things. And for instance, now I can say also that we are planning to make this digital backbone activities in the Otaniemi area together with the city of Espoo and Aalto and VTT. And then a lot of other companies who like to be part of that, and I think that is very good. Some kind of smart city innovation center is possible to create in that area. And then, if we have the platform, then we can do a lot of different projects on top of the platform and really learn how to use it. And then there might be different level of some projects are totally academic, and some projects are really to make the products ready and selling that. And if we are able to create that kind of smart city innovation center, then well, that's great. And then we start to understand the data also.
Okay, great, thank you. And thank you all for the very interesting discussion. So I would really be tempted to continue with that, but then we have to do that afterwards, and then of course include the whole community also to the good discussion. But thank you all very much for this panel discussion, and then we will go on with the program.